Thanks for joining us here on Atlanta News First Plus. I'm Joy Lim Nakran. Taking a look at some of the top stories that we're following right now. There's a shooting investigation underway right now in Carrollton. One man has died, and this happens after a shooting at an off-campus apartment complex. Again, this is in Carrollton. The investigation is still underway into exactly what happened here. But what we've learned, and this is some footage captured from the scene, but what we have learned so far is that one victim was actually killed after the shooting at an off-campus apartment complex near the University of West Georgia in Carrollton. And investigators tell us they got a call for gunshots at the reserve off Laverne Road. And when police arrived, they found a man with a gunshot wound in the parking lot there. Well, he was taken to Tanner Medical Center, rushed there. But despite doctors trying to save him, he was pronounced dead from his injuries. The shooter apparently ran off from the scene, according to investigators. He ultimately was later found by investigators, and he was also suffering from gunshot wounds. He was rushed to Grady Memorial Hospital. Right now, no word yet on his condition or if the victim or suspect were students at the college. But again, one man shot dead, a suspect injured and in the hospital. This is in Carrollton at an apartment complex near the University of West Georgia. Of course, we're going to continue to follow all the developments here on Atlanta News First and Atlanta News First Plus. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest. Okay, I also want to let you know about an arrest in another shooting. Arrest has been made in connection to a shooting in Southeast Atlanta. So this man is who police say that they arrested in connection with that. That's 52-year-old Latoris Carter, who's now facing charges of murder, aggravated assault, possession of a firearm, among others, during the commission of a felony. Atlanta police say that the shooting happened on Saturday morning. Police responded to a report of 2 people shot on Bolton Road, and those 2 men died on the scene. But again, an arrest has been made in the shooting that we have been following for you here on Atlanta News First and Atlanta News First Plus. And now we want to turn to the trial for the murder of Laken Riley. Well, an Athens judge has denied a request to remove evidence in that trial. Laken Riley, you probably recall, was a 22-year-old nursing student who went for a run on UGA's campus in February, and she never came back. She was murdered. And, of course, her death became a part of the national conversation about immigration. Well, prosecutors say that 26-year-old Jose Ibarra killed her. His attorneys tried to keep cell phone and social media evidence out of the trial, out of the courtroom. Atlanta News First Bridget Spencer reports with a look at what to expect when that trial begins.
The Augusta University student was going for a morning run on the UGA campus when she was killed. Jose Ibarra was arrested the next day. Jury selection starts Wednesday, with the opening statements in his trial to begin shortly after.
The Jose Ibarra prosecution has moved very efficiently, especially in comparison when we look at other cases across the nation.
Joshua Schiffer is a defense attorney who is not on the case, but can see some of the writing on the wall as far as how the trial could go.
Sheila Ross appears very ready for this case. She prepared it in a relatively short period of time, but it's also not the most complex murder case.
Investigators found that Ibarra entered the country illegally in 2022, fueling the debate on immigration, including a tense exchange during President Biden's State of the Union address.
This case became quite political during the last election cycle. We all heard major candidates talk about the issue of illegal immigration.
And just last week, Ibarra's attorney filed a motion to suppress some evidence, such as cell phone data and social media content, claiming it was all seized without probable cause. The judge denied it.
And in a case where life without parole is on the table, you want to make sure you've done all of your due diligence as a defense attorney. I don't expect a particularly long trial. It is a very serious case. They will be taking their time, but I don't see this trial lasting more than a couple of weeks at most.
Bridget Spencer, Atlanta News First.
All right, take a look at this. MARTA police spending hours preparing for worst-case scenarios and trying to keep you safe. Well, our cameras were there as they trained, and Atlanta News First Asia Wilson gives us an in-depth look at the full-scale training exercise.
There was a lot of activity and noise coming from the Hamilton E. Holmes transit station early Sunday morning. Intense but simulated. This was training to evaluate how MARTA police, bus, and rail operational staff, along with other agencies like Grady EMS, Atlanta Police, and Fire Rescue, respond should an actual emergency or threat happen.
We train to perfect what we do, and this gives us an opportunity to evaluate how we do it and take a look internally and see what processes we can make better.
Some of the exercises included answering suspicious packages calls and responding to an active shooter. They use actors to make it as real as possible and practice tending to the wounded.
We use what's called simunitions, so it's basically like live fire, but it's a fake round that makes the noise. So you can simulate actual gunfire. And then if you look behind me, we have what's called our mobile command vehicle. And that's where a lot of our technology is incorporated, so our camera system.
While the Federal Transit Authority and the Department of Homeland Security required agencies like MARTA to do this, MARTA's police chief says they'll walk away better able to serve everyone.
At the end of this, we'll sit down and do what's called a hot wash, and we'll talk about what we did good, what we did bad. And then we'll put a formal report out from our emergency preparedness unit, and we'll be able to take a look at that and change any policies or procedures that we need to do moving forward. And then we'll retrain what we've learned the next time we do this.
In Atlanta, Asia Wilson, Atlanta News First.
And today we honor and celebrate the many men and women who've served and are serving our country. Several Metro Atlanta school children gathering today to do just that with their annual flag raising ceremony, among other Veterans Day events. Atlanta News First, Don Shipman has more.
Marietta's high school marching band participated in the parade here, and you can take a look right here. It rounded out right at Marietta Square, and this gave people in the community an opportunity to do so in person to thank veterans for their service. And then take a look at the parade right here. Students putting on their best performance. The streets lined with community members, young and old. Not packed, but a pretty good turnout. The Marietta Parade is sponsored by the American Legion Post 29 here in Marietta. And the parade, now in its 20th year, started at the Roswell Street Baptist Church and then made its way up Roswell Street to Marietta Square. We talked with a Marietta native who came out to support her husband, a Vietnam veteran.
We just went to a breakfast with our little niece at an elementary school for the vets, and they had to march through the school. My husband had to march through school, so that's good for them to see this.
In Buckhead, school children participating in this flag-raising ceremony. This right here is E. Rivers Elementary School. Local scouts helping to unfold the flag right there. Now, many local veterans also in attendance, and they started this Veterans Day tradition some 10 years ago.
Well, I think it's great because they can get a firsthand account of what it's like to be a veteran and what their military service meant for their life. And it's interesting because you'll hear stories during the program today of their service and their sacrifice, and then also how that's led into their careers after that.
And while Buckhead had school today, Marietta did not, but still managed to squeeze in some education by way of a history lesson of sorts, as they were able to chat with all of these veterans. We're in Marietta. Don Shipman, Atlanta News First.
And former President Jimmy Carter making history once again. Mr. Carter received his 10th Grammy Award nomination for the spoken word album, Last Sundays in Plains. The album features some classic songs such as America the Beautiful and Amazing Grace. It also includes recordings from Carter's Sunday school lessons that he gave at a local church in his hometown of Plains, Georgia. Carter has won 3 Grammys, and if he wins this time, he would become the oldest ever Grammy Award winner. Of course, we wish him the best of luck. Thanks so much for joining us here on Atlanta News First Plus. If you haven't done so yet, you can download our free app to get all the top stories sent right to your phone. And of course, you can get updates sent right to your phone as well. Thank you so much for joining us.